and welcome. Hi, it is Monday, and we have got a lot to talk about, obviously. January 26th, here at the end of January, a major winter storm, the likes we haven't seen in a long time here on the East Coast and affecting much of the country, and obviously all the horror that is happening in Minneapolis and around the country just because of the Trump regime still in power every day, dealing with that. I've got a great guest joining me today, my old friend Karla Hernández-Mats, who is one of my heroes, very inspiring, former Teacher of the Year, former huge teachers union leader, one of the largest teachers unions in the country down in Florida, and now she is running a very, very important nonprofit, which is something I really hope folks will consider supporting. It's called Educated We Stand, an organization founded to fight the whole Moms from Liberty movement that has gained so much ground and is hopefully losing ground as a result of folks like Karla. So my conversation with Karla Hernández-Mats coming up at 25 minutes, but I do have your headlines and clips from the weekend. So thank you very much for being here. I cannot do the show without you. Patreon.com/PeteDominic is the place to support it. Send me your vitamin N pictures, and I hope to see you in Las Vegas, April 9th through 12th. Pod Jam 3 details are coming. More details, but I hope that you get your ticket soon to join us. It's going to be a really fun time out in Vegas. New and improved ideas. I think you're going to love it. All right. Well, lots to talk about today, obviously. I hope you're doing okay. I hope you got shoveled out if you got buried in snow, as I know many of you did around the country, and I hope you're hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. Mom is doing better every day after her car accident. Dad is hanging in there. I'm headed back up to my parents probably tomorrow or the next day, and in the meantime, I'm right here with you and looking forward to connecting with you on Discord and anywhere else. Email me anytime, standupwithpete@gmail.com. If you haven't heard my conversation with my friend Adam, longtime listener Adam, who lives in Minneapolis, I posted that yesterday. It's real special. Got a lot of great feedback on it. I hope that you will listen to it if you haven't already. It's really, really important. Thank you very much again to Adam for listening, to everybody who has and gotten backed. And I want to just start with this quote that I saw Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez post on her social media yesterday. She said, "Cynics and defeatists share the same story as authoritarians do, that nothing is worth trying. The conclusion is foregone. Hope is naive, and attempts to resist are too small or futile. Don't listen to them. Do not give up. Try. A better world is possible. We will win. We must." I fully agree with that. I've been saying some version of that for years, that optimism is so important, that hope is so important, and I just can't deal with cynicism and the defeatists, so I won't, and I will keep going. All right, here are your headlines from today that I've gathered for you. It is a Sunday. It's coming out of a Sunday, so we've got all kinds of stuff happening, obviously, but now Democrats and a senator are vowing not to fund ICE after this latest shooting. This is going to imperil a spending deal. Key Democrats said they would oppose legislation needed to avoid a government shutdown at the end of this week after federal agents shot and killed Minneapolis resident. I mean, it took them that to get there is pretty pathetic, but still, bipartisan legislation to fund a broad swath of the government and avert a shutdown at the end of the week appears to be in grave danger now. So we'll be watching that closely. That's going to be a big story as the week goes on to see if there's any deal. I wanted to mention the American Academy of Pediatrics does not care what Dr. Oz and RFK Jr. think about vaccines. They're going to ignore the federal vaccine recommendations and stick with science. Yeah, that's right. American Academy of Pediatrics released its updated recommendations for what vaccines children should get, and it's a routine revision, hardly different from last year's recommendation, and it carries a lot more significance this year. More states and doctors relying on it instead of the controversial new schedule that's coming out of the federal government. So that's good. Of course, I guess I have to mention the extreme weather. The brutal, deadly cold setting in, more than 800,000 still without power from the winter storm. Apparently, 8 people were killed on a private jet taking off in Bangor, Maine yesterday. There were 11,000 flights canceled across the country on Sunday. More than 3,500 flights were already canceled today on Monday. And now it's time for the cleanup all over the country where people are trying to dig out, hopefully helping each other out, helping your neighbors, your community. Look for the helpers, folks. Look for the helpers. If you need any help in this community, let us know if this weather has impacted you or anything else for that matter. But it's going to be cold. A lot of people out of power. So reach out to each other, connect with each other, help each other. That's who we are. That's what we do, right? American rock climber Alex Honnold climbed the Taipei skyscraper without ropes for Netflix. It was legal. It was a big stunt. They paid him. Did anybody watch that over the weekend? Also, the Super Bowl has been decided. It's the New England Patriots versus the Seattle Seahawks, which should be interesting. Did you watch football yesterday? And those are just some of the headlines for the weekend. Now let's get to those clips that I've gathered for you. I want to start with the actress Glenn Close, who made a very powerful video that a lot of people were sharing and watching. I thought this was good, and, well, why not share it?
Hi, everyone. It's been a long time since I've put anything on Instagram. And there's been a lot on my mind. I've been working pretty steadily as well. But since what happened again in Minneapolis, I just feel compelled to say something. So I've actually written something that I'm going to read. I have been mostly out of the U.S. since this past September, so have watched for the rest of the world our democracy being systematically disemboweled and torn apart, along with the institutions which, in the near past, though never perfect, have stabilized our society and supported the American people. I am outraged and sickened by what is happening under the Trump regime. The cruelty, inhumanity, and arrogance, the voracious corruption, the cowardice, the sickening hypocrisy, the blatant manipulation of facts, and now the cold-blooded murder of American citizens. I have felt for a long time that there are thousands and thousands of American citizens with cellars full of guns. I fear that ICE is giving them the excuse to pull the trigger. Humans are a conflicted species. Since we ventured out of the caves, we have been tribal, territorial, and violent. The United States of America has been tribal, territorial, and violent from the very beginning. Democracy is the most idealistic and ambitious form of government because it demands that all individuals participate for the good of everyone, for society. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Never perfect, because we are imperfect. But at its core, the idea that all of us are created equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was revolutionary when it was conceived, and it still is. Not the pursuit of enemies or the pursuit of great riches that means the impoverishment of others, but of happiness. Democracy demands compromise, but compromise doesn't mean to sell out for personal gain or revenge. I sense from over here that the great American body politic is stirring, waking up, and taking in what's going on. What the Trump regime is attempting to do to our beloved country and its citizens. It is waking up and taking note, and mark my words, there will be hell to pay.
Oh, I hope she's right. Accountability sure would be nice. All right, let's check in with one of the most respected scholars on authoritarianism, historian Tim Snyder, who made this video after the shooting of Alex Preddy.
Amidst the ethical horror of the killing of Alex Preddy, and amidst the obvious need for more nonviolent resistance, I want to try to explain the logic that the U.S. government is now following. The logic is known from the 1930s, from the Soviet Union, from Nazi Germany, from authoritarian and totalitarian regimes all over the world. The logic is that you take the border and you put it everywhere. You take concentration camps and you make them bigger. You create states of exception in time and in space, and you try to make them as large as you possibly can and to make them last forever. None of this is about immigration or about the law. It's about creating a state of exception everywhere. It's about using the border, making the border everywhere. It's about turning ICE into a state secret police that's permitted to do anything. This logic has to inform our actions because it defines the stakes of all this. This logic should also define how courts, journalists, and others consider these events. We have to see them for what they are. They can be stopped, and we can get out of this and into a much better America. Thanks.
Very well explained by Tim Snyder. It's exactly how courts and journalists and the public should see what this government force is being used for. All right, let's head over to Minnesota to check in with their Attorney General, Keith Ellison.
Now, as I noted a moment ago, people will ask, well, why Minnesota? I'll say this. Minnesota is dealing with targeted oppression from the federal government because of who we are and who we value. Minnesota is a place where we welcome the stranger. We have a number of nonprofits that focus on refugee resettlement in Minnesota. Minnesota is a place where we take care of the vulnerable among us. We're a state that just passed paid family leave. We're a state that believes in feeding our kids who are in school, and we're a state that believes that Minnesota is a great place to live for everyone, no matter where you were born. Of course, we obey all laws, but we still believe that immigration is not a sin. They're coming after our state, in my view, because of what we stand for, because we voted 3 times in favor of somebody not Donald Trump, which he has publicly said he resents deeply and believes is not even true. I can tell you it's not about fraud. Because if he sent people who understand forensic accounting, we'd be having a different conversation. But he's sending armed, masked men. This is a pretext, and it's not supported by the facts at all, which has brought us to court challenging the justification that the president has offered. For those watching around the country, I would submit to you that just as Portland and Chicago and LA were precursors to Minneapolis, Minneapolis is a precursor to a whole lot of other places that they have their eye on right here, right now, including Maine and several other states. If we don't stop this behavior here, it will only expand, and it won't be good for anyone in our country.
Yes, indeed. Well done by the AG there, Keith Ellison. Now let's stay in Minnesota and listen to their governor, Tim Walz, pleading with our corrupt leaders and begging them to pull these government Gestapo, ICE out of our cities.
This is enough. And I would say, President Trump, you can end this today. Pull these folks back. Do humane, focused, effective immigration control. You've got the support of all of us to do that. Let our law enforcement continue to do what they do, making Minnesota one of the safest states in the country, one of the best places to live. Allow our children to go back to school. We have got children in Minnesota hiding in their houses, afraid to go outside. Many of us grew up reading that story of Anne Frank. Somebody's going to write that children's story about Minnesota. And there's one person who can end this now. And I'll go back to it again. Please show some decency. Pull these folks out. Reset this situation and allow us to do the job that the Attorney General, myself, were elected to do, protect the people of Minnesota and carry out the laws of Minnesota. We'll be back with you when we get more information.
All right, there's Tim Walz, and now finally here is Senator Amy Klobuchar, who has announced she's running for governor now, and she, of course, is a senator from Minnesota. This is what she had to say on ABC This Week with Jonathan Karl.
It's remarkable to hear what the Deputy Attorney General said about this. He said that essentially state and local officials, I'm going to read his words exactly, a federal investigation is ongoing, make no mistake, this avoidable tragedy is a result of the total failure of Minnesota's city and state officials. He's blaming this.
I don't know how you can say
on state and local officials. I mean, what do you make of that?
You know, I have been with these officials. I have seen them. I think you have too, pleading for peace. And somehow 50,000 peaceful protesters in 10 below weather, I was there with them marching, when they were able to march without any problems. And then the next day, a half a dozen ICE and Border Control agents couldn't handle a guy with a cell phone taking video of them and shot him. So I think it's pretty obvious what's going on here. And what needs to happen is they need to leave.
All right. Well, of course they need to leave. And the leaders of Minnesota are demanding it, as are the people of Minnesota. I thought we've heard from so many amazing people in Minneapolis, protesters, constitutional observers, just citizens with cameras, witnesses. And this is one of them, older gentleman. I want to say he's maybe in his 70s, so he's seen a bit, and very eloquent, as are a lot of the people that are on the streets of Minneapolis, smart guy, and I wanted to share this.
The mood, honestly, is just anger. We're angry with our federal government for invading the city of Minneapolis and St. Paul, by the way, twin cities in Minnesota, for no good reason other than President Trump was not backed here in Minneapolis. We tend to back Democratic candidates. That's the only reason they're here.
He obviously says that there has been a migrant problem here. There has been a problem with corruption linked to migrants. Your response to that?
There are undocumented migrants all over the United States. We've had a problem with our immigration system for a long time, but is really the answer to violently expel them from the country, when actually many of the businesses in the United States rely on immigrant labor, even undocumented immigrant labor, to do their business?
The migration debate will go on, of course, but what is happening here feels to me to be different, because it almost feels as though, you know, up is down, black is white at the moment. We've seen the videos, and yet we've heard what Kristi Noem said. She appears to be presenting a different version of events.
Kristi Noem has drunk the Kool-Aid. She is on only one side. She's not on the side of the American people. She's on the side of her administration, which most people here would agree is just a violent, brutal, fascist administration. And I'm using that term purposely. I believe they're actually fascists. In Minnesota, we have an estimated 90,000 undocumented immigrants. In Texas, they have 1.6 million. Tell me, why are they not in Texas? Why aren't there 3,000 additional ICE agents in Texas? The reason is because Texas voted for Trump. Trump is a bully. He's a terrible bully. And the people of Minneapolis, we love this place, and we're defending this place against him.
Yes, indeed. So well said. I really like that a lot. Here is Sarah Longwell on MSNBC talking about how this resonates with voters, which is not the most important thing, but I thought it was an interesting analysis. She's pretty smart with her focus groups, et cetera. Here it is.
Yeah, so let's talk about the voters. So if you will recall, we were in this exact same situation 3 weeks ago. They shot a mother in her face, who was trying to drive away. There was video footage. Everyone's trying to parse it, look at it. And the government lied then, too, right? They immediately tried to frame the story in ways that turned out to be absolutely untrue. But they threw up enough smoke. There was sort of enough doubt with all the angles of the video about this question of whether or not the police officer that Renee Good, when she was turning her car, did it look like she could have hurt him, right? Did he have fear for his safety? And so the voters sort of took in that confusion. They had a real sense, especially they were like, I'm sad she got hurt, but I'm just not sure. And it's hard to know with AI what's true, what's not. Here's the thing about this one. This one, it is not even remotely unclear. It is clear as day what is happening. And so their stories are not holding up the same way. The government did the same thing. They came out and they lied about it immediately. Kristi Noem lied about it. The president, Stephen Miller, is lying relentlessly and smearing this victim in a way that is so callous and disgusting. I've almost never seen anything like it. And so, you know, for voters this time around, I think it will be, especially when they happen so close in succession, it's going to be harder for people to just feel confused this time, even if they want to try to feel confused so that they don't have to take accountability for the government that they've been supporting. This one is clear-cut, clear as day, no excuses, and I think you're going to see a different kind of backlash this time around.
All right. I hope she is right. Well, there's a lot of more headlines and a lot more clips from yesterday, but I'm out of time, and I just want to give you some laughs here from the boys at Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live this past Saturday night, and then we'll jump into my conversation with my friend Karla.
Thank you. Welcome to Weekend Update. I'm Michael Che.
I'm Colin Jost. Well, during a press conference celebrating his first year in office, President Trump said that God was very proud of the job he's doing as president. Trump added that God was probably looking up at us right now, smiling from horn to hoof. Also, remember when President Trump straight up told us he was going to hell?
I think I'm not maybe heaven bound.
But he thinks that after this week, God is back on board.
Vice President J.D. Vance criticized protesters confronting ICE officers, saying they should instead write an op-ed or argue about it on social media. You know, just like these young scholars did on January 6th. I get that ICE agents are people, allegedly, and they have a job to do. But at some point, while you're pepper spraying old ladies or shooting at a nurse, do you ever stop and ask yourself, are we dicks?
President Trump has been inviting world leaders to join his Board of Peace or be crushed by his Council of Destruction. Trump's Board of Peace consists of countries such as Russia and Saudi Arabia, which is like if Law & Order SVU starred Diddy.
President Trump called off his proposed tariffs on European countries who opposed his desire to acquire Greenland. Trump backed down after consulting his most trusted advisor, the Stocks app. The singing of the U.S. national anthem at an NBA game in London was interrupted by protesters yelling, "Leave Greenland alone." And you know we've gone too far when the British are like, easy on the colonizing, old chum.
President Trump has spent so much time stalking Greenland like an absolute psycho. He's basically become a guy on a dating app. He's like, hey, Greenland, you look so good. And Greenland's like, haha, thanks. And Trump's like, seriously, I need you. I'd literally give $700 billion to be with you. And Greenland's like, look, not trying to be mean, but I'm not interested. And Trump's like, I'll kill you, you ugly bitch. Just off the top of my head.
Yeah, sure. The House Oversight Committee announced that next month it will depose Ghislaine Maxwell as part of its Jeffrey Epstein investigation. In the meantime, they've turned off the cameras to give her privacy to play with her new chair and long rope.
Yeah, take her side.
All right, there you go. That's a weekend update from Saturday Night Live on NBC this past weekend, and now it's time to get to my amazing guest. She's the ex-president of the country's third largest teachers union. She's also a former Democratic nominee for lieutenant governor. She ran with Charlie Crist. couple of years ago. Remember that? The organization that she is now running, it's called Educated We Stand, is the anti-Moms for Liberty, and it was founded 2 years ago to promote the importance of public education, school board races, and taking on far-right extremists in the education atmosphere. You can check them out at educatedwestand.com. Karla was also Teacher of the Year in 2010. She was a special ed teacher for several years before she became an organized labor union leader in South Florida and Miami. She's first generation American. Her dad came here from Honduras. She's one of the most impressive people I've ever met. She's a true leader, real smart, real tough, real awesome, and we had a great conversation. And it's very important to be talking about all of these issues because they're getting buried out by the daily fascism that we see, and certainly the fascism within and against our public education system. So I thought it was great to catch up with Karla. I hope you'll follow her and support the organization. And you can watch my interview with Karla on YouTube and Substack. Let's do it right now with Karla Hernández-Mats.
Yes, I've got her, as promised, as promoted. One of my favorite people, one of the smartest, strongest people I know, who's been doing amazing work for her whole career and life. Karla Hernández-Mats, my friend, who I've known for over a decade, is now in a new position, and I want to learn all about this position. They're very lucky to have her at this awesome organization. It's called Educated We Stand, where she's the new chair. Karla, I'm always happy to see you, to talk to you, to learn from you, and to follow whatever you say to do. Thank you for joining me today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you, my friend. It's always great to see you, even though we're in two very different states, but to know all the advocacy work that you're doing too. I'm glad to be able to be on.
Yeah, my state's about to get snowpocalypse, and you're going to the beach. It's gonna be like 80 and sunny.
I mean, there's only a few good things that are happening in Florida, and the weather's definitely one.
First, Karla, I just want to start by saying, your work fighting for, let's just really generally say, fighting for strong public education system. And now at this new organization, fighting against the moms of liberty types, the far right, I call them fascist folks who I've been fighting in my town and across the country. That is not getting as much attention. No specific issue is getting as much attention in this national news and media atmosphere where there's so much craziness happening. So how important is it to continue to talk about, in this case, public education when it's being, I think, crowded out by all these other stories?
Yeah. And to your point, it's going to be crowded out because, where are the Epstein files, right? And so there's going to continue to be things that are going to pop up and distract us and, make us enraged about everything that's happening. But public education is so critical. I'm sure that some of your viewers or listeners have heard that they're dismantling the Department of Education at the federal level. This is going to impact students not only in rural communities, but urban communities that rely on, federal funds for Title I, which is for underfunded communities. We know that a lot of kids do, after school care or get tutoring or learn English through these programs. Students with disabilities is also a major component of the Department of Education. I'm a special education teacher by trade, and so I know how important these federal funds and the individual education plans for our students are. And so all these things are not talked about, but here's why I think it's important for everybody, whether you have a child in our classrooms or not. Education is the cornerstone to our democracy. We know that through public education, we can really equalize the playing field. We know that public schools have, for many years, after the Brown versus Board of Education, not only did they desegregate, but we also were able to make sure that our students, regardless of race, nationality, zip code, give them access to a proper education. And that's what we want. We want to make sure that all kids have access to a superb education so that they can achieve all their dreams. And so we need to focus on how that's going to impact us, how it's impacting their future now, but of course, longitudinally, how is that going to impact the economy and the well-being of this country?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point to make, to underscore. It's always pretty easy to say that America is far too ignorant, far too stupid, dumb, and gullible as a result of what's wrong with our public education system. But I don't like to make that criticism because I don't want people to think that public education isn't the cornerstone of America. It is, but there's a difference between a well-funded, well-resourced public education. It's also well-respected, and there's contributions from the local, state, and federal communities versus something you just call public education, but you gut in order to obviously privatize it and take every single tax dollar you can and put it in your own pocket and not the pocket of the educators who are there to benefit the students. And public education.
And that's the playbook. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the playbook.
That's been the playbook for 2 decades, right? How do you under-resource, how do you defund public schools, then categorize it as a failure, even though you're defunding it, and then privatize it so that you and your buddies can make money off of privatizing public schools and then making it about the bottom line and not about
They're not learning in our public schools. We need a change. You took all the books out and unplugged the internet and the electricity, and there's no air conditioning, and you've defunded everything, and yet there's these heroes, adults called teachers and other adult staff, there every day and pulling money out of their own pockets. I mean, they've done everything they can, and you've been the tip of the spear at all this. Very few people have seen what you've seen, not only because you've been in this fight for so long, but also because you've been in Florida. And we can talk about the reasons why, but Florida is kind of the pilot state for all of these privatization.
Bad ideas. Just say bad ideas.
For bad ideas. Nobody knows that better than you. So yeah, lay out the kind of state of the union of public education. And that's a really big question because there's so much nuance and difference. There are wealthy schools and poor, schools. We fund it all by taxes, property taxes, which is such a bullshit idea. I don't think anybody else does that, but tell us about the state of the union of public education, however you want to.
Yeah. So, public schools in Florida for a very long time has been, again, underfunded. Right now we are second to last in, per student, funding at the national level. And of course we have right-wing extremists that are trying to say, but we are the freest district or state in all these things. And the reality of what we're seeing is that there is political ideology that's being intentionally embedded into the public schools and their policies. Number one, we saw that Moms for Liberty was a group that came out of Florida, Brevard County, very specifically. We know that what they have done is created chaos in school districts. They're trying to ban books. And when we look specifically at what those books are, they are people of color, brown and black books, books of the LGBTQ plus community. And they're really trying to erase and just rewrite history. We're seeing curriculum that has been changed as well. In the state of Florida, we're seeing that teachers are self-censoring. There's also real censorship, right? I mean, there are teachers that are being investigated right now because in their private time on their private social media, they said something factual about Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
And so
hundreds of educators and administrators and even board members in my town were fired, were suspended, were punished their whole careers for saying the truth.
Yep. And so we're seeing a lot of bad policies like that, very extreme right, that are impacting schools. We're taking away resources in the state of Florida. They did away with AP African American history. They tried to do the same thing with AP psychology. Again, these are advanced placement classes that only help our kids get a better footing and have access to more opportunities, because when they go to college, these are now courses that they have already taken and gotten credit for them, which, if you are a middle class family or working family, being able to save money on not having to pay for certain courses is a big deal in order for us to, reach that American dream. And so, we're seeing a lot of those things here in the state of Florida, and the agenda has been, very purposeful on their end. They have tried to bring in candidates that create this chaos and this confusion and this kind of just spectacle into our public school systems. And they've been getting a lot of funding from right-wing extremists, right? Foundations, the Koch brothers, the Heritage Foundation, to, pour in money, to get these candidates elected. Yep. And then what they do is they just, line up with what, the right-wing agenda is, which I agree. I think that fascist is the right word to actually describe what's happening when you see the book bans, when you see the censorship, when you see how they're trying to dismantle education and keep communities ignorant. these are all things that we've seen in the past. So I don't think you're wrong in the way that you're describing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, I think we've seen fascism, authoritarianism, right-wing extremism play out in other countries across the world. How it plays out for the issue of education and the government's role in education in America, public education, is never going to be the same, but sure as hell does sound like a similar song and what we've seen. And we've seen this, you and I, because we've been involved, and I've been following you and all your leadership for years now. 4 years, what they have been trying to do. And one thing that they're very good at is fundraising and organizing and achieving their goals, which are so often just binary, simplistic, fucking bullshit nonsense. You mentioned DEI earlier. They want to get rid of anything that's an acronym, and they don't even know what the letters stand from. I mean, I've even seen them talking about wanting to get rid of this idea of social and emotional learning, and all of these other things that should not be controversial. They benefit everybody. Everybody's a winner. And then you have these mostly white whiners in my town. Oh, you're making me feel bad because I'm your white. My kids feel bad because they're white. And I say to them to their face, if your kids feel guilty and bad because they're white, it's because you're a shitty parent. You can handle that. Yeah. Like, they can understand history. It's not that hard. It doesn't mean they did the thing. Right. What it means is we want to teach all people all over what history's mistakes were so we can learn from them. Meantime, while we're talking, they're taking down like monuments to slavery in Philadelphia yesterday. So your work now is at this really interesting organization that's so important. They've got Moms for Liberty. They've got Turning Point, which is in my school. Students handing out Turning Point buttons. I'm like, where did you get them? I wonder where. And now you are the chair of Educated We Stand. What is this organization? Why should people support it with all they can? You can make a donation, and you can support it in all kinds of ways. Tell me what all about it.
So Educated We Stand. Thank you for the question. Educated We Stand, was birthed about 2 years ago. And really it was because we needed a counterweight to all the bad things that were happening with, Moms for Liberty and the kind of chaos that they were creating in school systems. So we came about specifically because of that. We wanted to make sure that number one, that we have pro-public education school board members supporting public schools. We don't believe that public schools should be privatized. They are for the good of the entire community, and we need to make sure that we're supporting them. Pro-public education candidates, people that believe in research-based curriculum, research-based policies that are good for students. Because at the end of the day, we want every child, no matter their race or ethnicity, their ability or disability, we want them to have access to a high-quality public education, regardless of their zip code. And in order for that to happen, that means that we need people who understand the importance of education and how that, breaks cycles of poverty and also gives people opportunity in this country, to really help us by chipping in. You can Google us on Educated We Stand, find us on the web, on social media, sign up for our newsletter or our emails. Educated We Stand does accept donations, and that we are funded through donations, but we try to work in swing states. We've been very successful in Florida. We've played in Michigan. We've played in Wisconsin. We're expanding. But here in Florida, we have an 83% win rate, meaning that 83% of our candidates that we have endorsed and supported through this process have been successful and have been winning in their campaigns. And that has shifted the dynamics of school boards and school systems so that we can give kids really the opportunity that they all deserve. And so we're really happy and excited about that. We think that now more than ever, with everything that's happening in this country and the dismantling of the Department of Education and, Linda McMahon being at the head of this and really not caring about... not caring about, public education or students. This is really
not being familiar with public education. Yeah. Not being familiar with it. The whole goal is to recreate it. They have no idea what they're doing. They hate it. They're there to destroy it and to recreate it in their own image. And, well, sorry to interrupt you, but let me just ask you for a specific story that you're seeing. I mean, you guys are doing this great work and it matters so much. And I always tell people when they say, what can you do? I'm like, are you involved in your local school board campaign? fight? Are you involved? Do you know who the candidates are? Do you know when the election is? Are you voting? Are you supporting it? Are you giving them a couple bucks to buy signs? Are you stepping up and putting your name on to run? But can you share a specific story from Florida or anywhere else about how these book bans or school board policy fights capture what's really at stake for students, really, and obviously for teachers as well?
Yeah. Number one, yes, you're right. Most people don't know who their even school board member at their district level is, like who they are represented by. And I think that's completely critical. Please find out who they are, talk to them, send them an email, show up to a school board meeting, especially when kids are speaking. When kids are out there and they're advocating for something, like show them support. We know that, a lot of these policies where they're eliminating books and they're rewriting curriculum and censoring teachers, this is where it's happening. And so we need parents and community members to show up. So please go to Educated We Stand, donate $10, $20, whatever you can. It's going to be critical to the work that we're able to do. But things, I'll give you an example of something that happened here in Florida, in Miami. When they started to, really come down and, dismantle things that have been, no-brainers in the past, like, acknowledging LGBTQ or Pride Month, right? These things that already existed, they started to dismantle them and not allow school boards to pass any board items that were related to them. We saw that there was a lot of fear in even educators, excellent educators that had, really spent their entire careers at their profession helping children, saying, I can't have a picture of me and my spouse or my partner on my classroom because if a student asks me about, my partner, it's going to create an issue where I can get investigated, or I have a Black Lives Matter flag, or I have, an LGBTQ plus flag up, or, everybody's welcome here flag. I mean, all these things became controversial.
Everybody's welcome here is controversial.
I know. Can you believe that? And so teachers, some of them felt, they were so offended by all these changes and, not being able to speak and teach with authenticity. That, I know of cases where these teachers who had been in our classrooms 10, even 20 years left the profession. And there is a big, there's a big shift right now where a lot of states, and I don't know, what it's like in New York right now, but there's a big shift where there's a lot of vacancies in the education field. We are losing not only seasoned, experienced teachers that are just brilliant and know their craft, but it's too much for people. People don't want to deal with the politics of this. They want to be able to just teach freely with authenticity, make sure that children are well-rounded and ready to be, critical thinkers in our communities. And they're being stifled in so many ways that it's just not something that that they feel comfortable doing anymore, because they feel that all these policies are very directed to trying to eliminate them from being in the classroom. And so that's obviously very hurtful. Kids showing up to school board meetings and talking about, wanting to see themselves represented through, celebrating Pride Month or things like that. And, school boards just shutting them down and trying to make them feel like they don't belong. I mean, who does that to a kid? Who does that to a community? How do we think that education is well-rounded or holistic when you're sitting around figuring out how to ban books or create processes to ban books? No classroom, no teacher is there to harm a child. We have a curriculum. The curriculums are all passed by the state board. So every state has that authority to pass the curriculum and the standards. And of course, everything has always been pre-approved. So this crazy idea that these things are happening in the classroom when there is no evidence of those things is just really heartbreaking to a lot of teachers. And they've left. And it's a disservice to our kids when we have such professionals that are out there that are willing to do so much for our community that don't feel like that they can do that anymore under this environment.
There's so much at stake. This issue alone, it's really, in many ways, I mean, democracy is such an important issue, and I feel like it comes before everything because we can't get anything done if we can't work together to elect people and to come to agreement on solutions. Just a general small d idea of democracy. But when, the next issue that makes any country smart, strong, successful is education. So like you said, if you don't have kids, you should be caring about this issue just as much. It affects you. Watching people just believe anything they hear or see, I always, Karla, just go to, oh God, how do we get so dumb? I have all kinds of ideas around that, but it's not quite that way in Europe. It's not that way in Canada. Right. It's not that way in Finland and places where they have strong public education. And frankly, it wasn't always that way in America. And and it isn't everywhere in America where public education is widely supported. You can see the data in every single outcome that matters, including to staunch capitalists, all of it. There's almost, I think, nothing more important than pre-K, universal pre-K.
Yes.
Because of the outcomes that you see for those who had that advantage, because early childhood education is apparently where your brain forms, I'm told.
And that research is out there and has existed for decades. Like, we know what the solutions are. The question is, as a community, as a society, as a nation, are we willing to invest in it?
You are first-generation American. Your dad came here, I believe, from Honduras. Hardworking guy, carpenter, put a premium on education for you. And it's hard to know what is the reason for your success in terms of everything you've done, from being a special ed teacher to the teacher of the year to the leader of one of the biggest teachers unions in the country to now running this amazing nonprofit, Educated We Stand. But you understand the importance of education. The question, though, is about the immigration issue and the fact that non-white people are especially being targeted all over the country right now. What do you want to say as a first-generation American, Honduran American? You identify as Hispanic. What's the difference? Do you feel any difference between Latino and Hispanic? What do you feel?
I don't, but I know that some people are very passionate about it. Okay. So I'm okay with Latina or Hispanic. It's fine.
Okay. And so how is this issue impacting immigrants, first generation, non-white people, even people who've been here for several generations who might be one shade of the wrong color, who are teachers, who are police officers, who are getting pulled over? I mean, we had these white police officers in Minneapolis just say a bunch of our officers have been pulled over by ICE, by federal authorities, and they're all people of color. Like, the cops are saying this now, Karla.
Yeah. I saw those interviews, by the way. I think that was, so everybody needs to watch it. So telling. I think, number one, it's impacting a lot of communities. We know that even if ICE isn't present in that city or that state, or they're present in all the states, but in big forces in cities, there is a whole underground kind of whispering movement that's happening. A lot of parents, unfortunately, because they're scared, are pulling their kids out of school. These are kids that sometimes depend on our school system for their breakfast and their lunch, besides their education, which is something that's so critical, because we tell kids, what you learn, people cannot take that away from you. That's in your brain. You're growing, you're learning, and that is forever yours. And so we want to make sure that parents know that these are our babies too. We want to be able to be part of the community that helps them to grow and thrive. But these are scary times. And so what we're seeing is that a lot of parents are pulling them out, are going underground, to be quite honest. I know of teachers that have started kind of like WhatsApp thread communities where they're actually buying groceries for these parents who will not leave their house because they're so scared to step out of their house because of ICE presence. So a big shout out to all my colleagues, educators in Minneapolis. I know that a lot of them were doing walkouts today. They're wearing blue. They're trying to show solidarity and taking care of what's happening in the community and each other, because they're out there and they're blowing whistles and they're creating, groups of, just alert, ways to alert the community when something is off, when something doesn't seem right, to protect one another. And I think we can all learn from it. We all should be organizing and should be ready. And we need to understand that public education, like I said earlier, is the cornerstone. We have to make sure that every child has access to a high quality education.
Uh-oh. Is that my internet? Am I still alive? Am I still here? Am I still here? Am I alive? Where did Karla go? We have to make sure that everybody has access to a great public education was where I'm bookmarking it. All right, Benny, thank you. I'm still here, but you don't see Karla, do you? I'm going to wait for her to come back. Such an important issue. And like everything else, it's getting overshadowed by everything else that's happening, which seems to be more imminent and urgent. Oh, you're back.
There we go. I'm sorry about that.
No, I don't know what happened, but it is funny that when you came back, when you punched back in, your phone was upside. So you were upside down. I was like, holy shit, that is a weird internet situation. Inverted now. You were making the point about everybody needs to have access to a quality public education. And so I guess as a way to kind of, wrap up on a positive note, I'm the eternal optimist. I love James Baldwin's quote where he said, I can't be a pessimist because I am alive. To be a pessimist means that you agree that human life is an academic matter. So I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive. You are a born leader. You've been leading people, men and women and everybody else for your whole career and probably your life. And I wonder what your view is on that spectrum of optimism, realism, pessimism, whatever, because what I see right now is I see a lot of wins. I see a lot of grassroots organization. I see a lot of human beings rejecting the narrative coming from the federal government. I see people standing up and all over this country, and I see actual wins happening. You mentioned some, your percentage rate. So it seems like we're losing a lot of battles or even the war, but also I think there's so much to be hopeful for and to be optimistic about. Your view. What is it?
And look, I think some of the just easy things that we can see is, look, what's happening with No King's Day, right? There's more masses, there's more numbers. People are really organizing in their communities, seeing how people are reacting to ICE coming into their communities. But for public education specifically, I'll tell you that besides Florida having an 83% win rate, we're seeing just win rates in other places. Texas, the Cy-Fair district this past November had 3 seats that were flipped. They were Moms for Liberty seats. We're talking about Texas, okay, which is like synonymous to Florida, right? I think people see them for who they truly are. They know that it's a front, right? They're not about liberty. They're actually the quite opposite of that. They've seen how they've created chaos and, just really a lot of controversy in school districts and taken away opportunities from students. And so they've lost their steam. They're losing, a lot of their endorsements. They just don't have, they don't have the right talking points. People are over it. They want, a school district that brings peace, that brings collaboration, that has resources, that just has stability. And we see that every time that a Moms for Liberty candidate or a far-right candidate comes in, they destabilize it. Yep. And so this is Florida, who has been suffering under this type of rule for a very long time. Republican governor, state legislature, our Senate, all branches of government here. And yet, what we're seeing is that in the community, when you're talking to people about their local issues, about their local school board, about how this helps the economics, how when you're talking about affordability and the economics of a community, education is key. Our kids are going to take care of us one way or another when we get older. That's definitely something that's very Latino, right? Like our family, we are expected to watch over our parents and the grandparents. And so are we giving them the right tools? Are we helping them think critically? Are we using evidence-based research to make sure that they have these opportunities and that we're growing through the research? And so that's why education is so important. Please visit Educated We Stand. Make a donation, $10, $20, whatever you can. But it's a great opportunity right now because I do see that the wind.
She's gone again. It must be Moms from Liberty. They must have hacked her. I lost Karla. By the way, if you can't donate, which not everybody listening or watching will be able to donate, you can follow them on Facebook. Educated We Stand. If you're on Facebook, if you're not, fine. But you can follow them. If you can't donate, you can follow on Facebook. You can follow on different social media platforms. You can follow Karla as well on those social media platforms. Sorry, Karla, we lost you again for a second. But I just, want to make sure that if everybody follows you and supports you and subscribes to the newsletter, which you can get in your email box. And I also just want to say, you mentioned take care of your parents. As you know, as a lot of people listen and watch me know, that my parents were in this horrible car accident. And I wanted to take a moment to thank you, not only for being a good friend and reaching out and being thoughtful, but more importantly, to thank you and everybody else who's involved in a teachers union. My mom was in the ICU. Now she's in rehab. And yes, of course, she's got Medicare, which is great. But her secondary insurance is from her 25 years as a teacher. And for all of her healthcare needs, as she's gotten older, it's covered everything. The reason my mom hasn't had to pay for anything for healthcare is because she was a dedicated teacher in the Syracuse City School District for over 20 years. And every teacher deserves that. And so thank you to you and all your brothers and sisters working in teachers unions across the country, because the healthcare matters so much. And it specifically at this very moment, brought my mom back to life, and she's doing so much better. So I just wanted to shout out the teacher union for that.
I'm glad your mom is doing good. Shout out to those nurses too who are there taking care of her and every single person that's hospitalized in not just your hospital, your local, but all around the country.
Yeah. I always say, if you want to criticize a teacher, walk a day in their shoes. If you want to criticize a nurse, I just walked a day in their shoes. I wanted to kill everyone. And so I don't know how you all do it. Thank you, Karla, for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for watching live and listening. Go to Educated We Stand, follow them, send them money, and follow Karla wherever she goes. Thank you, Karla.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
All right. There you go. EducatedWeStand.com. Karla Hernández-Mats, thank you so much for joining me. That was awesome. As always, she's the best. Thank all of you for listening to today's episode of Stand Up. I Can't Do It Without You. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Please sign up now. If you haven't, you can always pay more. If you can, keep us going. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. John Carroll writes and performs all the music for the show. Support him too, johncarroll.org. And all of the rest of our friends, there's links to a whole bunch of other members of the community that are doing real cool things that you can support in every day's show notes right there at the end. Send me your vitamin N pictures too. You got a lot of snow or not, no matter where you are, get outside and share it with the community. Send your vitamin N to standupwithpete@gmail.com. Talk to you tomorrow.
Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you gotta stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You gotta stand up. That's right. You got to rise up, you got to stand up, you got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear and all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence, even if it ain't a very friendly audience. So they'll begin to listen when you start making sense and you stand up. Stand up. Point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up. Stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up. Stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up. They had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake they all win. It'll be the cause for freedom that'll go unspent. You can see them flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside. And listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.